welcome to the second basic pizza cutter tutorial for Onshape. Previously we did a basic pizza cutter, and today we're going to look at how we can refine the model. So if you've loaded up Onshape, you'll probably find that unless you've done lots of other stuff, it's here as one of your last opened, your most recently opened, but if not, you can go to your folder and then double click on your model to load it up. With this model, there's various things that we could do. We could use this to help us make a physical model out of foam and card. We could 3D print this if we wanted to on one of the 3D printers. We could take a screenshot of this and show it to stakeholders to get their feedback. Or we could even print this off and then draw over it to help us with our sketching if we're not very good with our sketching at the moment. But perhaps before we showed this to one of our stakeholders, it might be worth just refining the design a little bit. Or maybe we've shown this to our stakeholders and they've given us a bit of feedback and we're now going to modify it based upon that feedback. So if that was the case, the things I would be looking at would be to perhaps make the guard a little safer with some radii, think about how the hook's been produced or manufactured, maybe to add a grip, and perhaps make the blade look a little bit more realistic. So let's start off with the hook. So I'm just going to zoom in here. So this hook looks as though it's been made out of a plate of material with this bit punched out. It would be better perhaps if this had been bent round. It's more likely to be the way it's made. It would save a lot of material if that was the case. So let's make it look like it's been formed in that way. So we'll go to the radius tool or the fillet tool. So remember, a fillet is, in engineering or product design, is where we put a radius on to a corner. We'll stick with the default to start with, which is 5mm, and I'm just going to left click inside there, and left click on that corner. Let's put a nice fillet. So tick that, saying that we're happy with it. Let's do the same on these outside corners as well. So select the tool. This time we need to change the distance to 7.5, and we can click on there, and that already looks better. It looks like it's been made out of a piece of perhaps square wire that's been bent round, and that would save a lot of material and manufacturing, but we could probably improve that a bit more, perhaps only if in terms of the aesthetics. So let's go to our fillet tool again, change it to 1.25, and let's round off the inside and the outside edges all the way around. So just by clicking on those parts, it's followed it all the way around, and if we look at that, it now looks like it's been perhaps bent from a piece of round wire instead of square wire, and that improves the overall look. Okay, so let's do the same on our guard. Let's make that look a bit better and perhaps be a bit safer as well. Go to the fillet tool. Again, 5mm is the default, which is perfect for us. Just using the mouse wheel to zoom in, and we can pick up those four corners. Note how they're highlighted in orange when they're selected. And again, there we go. Looks better already. Okay. Next thing we'll do is we'll make the blade look a bit more like a blade. At the moment, it's just sort of a 1mm piece of material cut into a disc. Let's give it a cutting edge. So we're not going to use a radius this time. We're going to use a chamfer. So I'm going to use the chamfer tool. And normally we would use a chamfer to take off a sharp corner to allow things to fit together, to make them a little bit safer, perhaps. And they're normally done equally, so a 45-degree angle, but we want distance this time, so we want two distances. And if I click on the line here, it's not going to work. See, it's come up red, and the reason for that is we're trying to do a 5mm and a 5mm chamfer. So we're trying to chamfer it 5mm in that direction and 5mm in this direction, and that's only 1mm thick. So if we change that top one to 0.4 and press tab, you can see that it's put a nice chamfer on there. We can tick that. Just move it around holding the right mouse button. Use the chamfer tool again and click on the other inside edge, and again it doesn't like it. We're going to go two distances, and this time for some reason we need to change the bottom one to 0.4 because that's that. I don't know why it selects them in that particular way, but there we go. So we've now got a sharp blade profile. And perhaps the last thing to do is to maybe add a grip or another bit of material on here to perhaps break up this long length and to look like we've got somewhere for our finger and thumb to hold on to it. So to do that, we're going to go onto the front plane. So I'm going to right click on the front plane and click New Sketch, then right click, View Normal to Sketch Plane, and then I'm just going to zoom in to make it easy for what we're trying to do. Click on the circle tool. Now I'm going to go up from the origin and just drag out a circle, and again I'm going to come down from the origin so you can see the kind of dotted orange line. Just drag out a circle, and then I'm going to dimension those with the dimension tool. So click on the edge. I want that to be 11 millimeters, and the bottom one I want to be 11 millimeters as well. And I now want these to be 5.5 millimeters from the origin. So click on the origin, click on the center of the circle, or do it the other way around, and I want that to be 5.5 millimeters. And I'm going to do the same. So click on the center, click on the origin, make that 5.5. And now we're just going to join those edges up with the line. So I'm going to make sure I come from the center, pick up the edge of the circle. I'm just going to hover over the center and come out, making sure that it's highlighted. So I've got that line across there. And I could do the same, or let's just use the mirror tool to remind us how to use that. So we're in a drawing. So select the mirror entity, or the mirror line, which is going to be the edge of that work plane. Select the entity that we want to mirror, and let's put that in. And now we can trim away the bits that we don't want. So I'm going to use the trim tool. I'm going to trim inside circles and the semicircle. Now you can see it's all come up red. What it's saying now is, well, this sketch is over-defined. You've got too much information telling the software where to put the different components. And that's because we've got lots of dimensions, but we've also got bits that are mirrored and bits that are symmetrical. So to get rid of that, we're just going to make sure that nothing is selected. So we're going to turn off the trim tool, and I am just going to select the dimensions and delete the dimensions because it's all in there now, and you can see that by having that diameter and everything positioned, it's not moved, it's not changed, and now we can turn that into a handle. So I'm just going to spin that around and use the mouse wheel to adjust it, and I'm going to use the extrude tool. But this time I'm going to put second end position. Now this is useful in several ways. So you can see at the moment the default of 25 millimeters in both directions, and you can see that it's trying to extrude it in this direction 25 millimeters and in this direction 25 millimeters. The first thing I'm going to do is change the bottom one to 10, and I'm going to change the direction. Okay, now, so I've now got a bit that's over here, so that's wrong. So I need to change the direction of that one and change the direction of that one. Now you can see it's got the effect that we wanted. So we've now got a piece that's 15 millimeters long, or effectively 25 millimeters from where we drew the sketch, but it's not started the extrude for the first 10 millimeters. So by using the second end position, we can actually create an offset from the sketch plane. So that's useful. It saves us having to create lots of different sketch planes. We could make that a little bit longer if we wanted. So let's make that 40 overall, and click the tip, and there we go. We've got perhaps a grip that we could use. Let's go to isometric, and let's go to fit. So there we have it. And again, I suppose we've got a sharp corner on there. It wouldn't hurt to put a bit of a fillet on there. So this time it needs to be 0.5 because that's how much bigger that part is. Use the mouse wheel to zoom in, click on that edge, does the whole lot, and click on that edge and it does the whole lot, and there we go. We have our finished handle. So seem to fit and isometric, and there we have our refined handle. Now that we could go back to our stakeholder having made those changes, or we could use that as perhaps a better model that we could 3D print to show a stakeholder, or we could create a drawing from this model and use that to help us make a foam and card model that we could show to someone.